In this video, I'm going to show you how to replace the front lower control arms on this GMC Sierra. These are going to be located behind the front wheels. Let's get into it. Now we're going to take off the wheel. Use a 22mm socket to take the lug nuts off. Remove the wheel. We're going to take the caliper and the caliper bracket off together and out of the way. We're going to take these two bolts out, use an 18mm socket. I'm going to grab the caliper and bracket, and we're going to take a brake caliper hanger and just hang the caliper out of the way. We're going to remove the rotor, remove this screw, use a T30 socket, take the screw out, grab the rotor, slide it off. If it doesn't come off that easy, you want to hit in these locations with a hammer. Take that off. Now we're going to take the axle nut off. Use a 36mm socket. Pull that off. Pull the washer off. Now I'll just take a punch. Just give the axle a tap. Make sure that's loose. That's good. You can see the wire that goes to the wheel speed sensor. I'm going to use a trim tool. Just get underneath the little retainer here. Pop this up. It's a little bit easier to disconnect. You can see there's a little lock on here. Just use a pocket screwdriver. Push that back and push down on the tab. And disconnect the connector. Pop that out. This retainer, we'll just pop this one up. Get underneath there. And then one more retainer over here. Just pop this out. Just using the trim tool. That's loose. Now we're gonna loosen up this nut using an 18mm wrench. And you can switch to a ratchet wrench, make it a little easier. 18mm. And just get that so it's finger tight. Just leave a couple threads on there. That's good. There's different front end tools you can use to try to separate the ball joint from the knuckle. We're just going to give it a tap with a hammer. If you use a pickle fork, you got to be careful because you're probably going to rip the boot. So if you need to reuse the upper control arm or the ball joint, then you don't really want to use a pickle fork. So there we go. That popped up. That's good. Before we separate this, we're going to loosen up the lower ball joint, pop that from the knuckle, and then take the tie rod off. Using a 24mm socket, we're going to loosen this nut for the lower ball joint. Just want to leave a couple threads. That's good right there. We're going to separate the ball joint from the knuckle. We're going to use a pickle fork. There is different front end tools you could use. There we go. That's separated. Now we're going to disconnect the tie rod from the knuckle. There is a cotter pin on this vehicle, so I'm just going to use some side cutters to take the cotter pin out. I'm using a 21mm socket. We're going to take this nut off. Now you can use some different front end tools to try to separate this. I'm just going to use a puller that lines up. separate that. Set that aside. The knuckle is still supported by the upper control arm, so we're going to take the nut off for the lower control arm. It's good right there. Now using a pry bar, just pry down on the upper control arm. You can go through the coil spring. And we'll take this nut off. Take that off. Put that down. And slowly release the tension on the upper control arm. Slide the knuckle out. Push the axle in. Slide the axle out and pull it off the lower ball joint. Just going to take the axle, move this out of the way. You can go over the sway bar link and that'll just sit right there. If that doesn't work for you, you can always use a bungee cord or a tie down strap. Just pull that out of the way and that's fine. Just take the axle, just move it over here. Now you can reinstall the knuckle. Using a 15mm wrench on the nut, 15mm socket. We're going to take the link out. Pull that off, pull the bushing off. And I'm just going to use a trim tool just to separate this. Pull that out. Let's pry this up, pull that out. Just so the axle's out of the way, I'm just going to use a bungee cord. Wrap it around there. Attach it to the coil string. That way that's not resting on the lower control arm. Now we're going to loosen up these nuts and bolts. I'm going to use a 24mm wrench on the nut. We'll use a 18mm socket on the bolt. All right. Now we're going to remove the two lower control arm nuts and bolts. Use a 24mm socket on the nut. And then we're going to use an 18mm socket on the bolt. I'm just going to try to loosen this up a little bit first. You can take this shield down if it's in your way, but you don't necessarily need to. You just push it out of the way. An 18mm socket. There we go. Nuts in there, bolts loose. Let's do the same on the front. Now before we take those bolts out, we're going to take the two bolts out for the lower shock. Take those out. A 15mm socket, we'll take those two bolts out. And just be careful when you take this one out because the arm is going to swing down. There you go. When you go to take this bolt out, you can see it's going to hit the sway bar. So we're going to have to move the sway bar, take these bolts out, move it out of the way just enough so that we can take this bolt out. Just use a 10mm socket. Take those bolts out, and just grab the bar, you can slide it down, and you can pull that bolt out. And supporting the control arm, you can push this other bolt out. Pull that out, grab the arm, it comes right out. Take the new arm, get this lined up. If you need to, use a rubber mallet, just tap it in place. Get the bolt, get that started. Slide that in place. The rear lined up. There we go. Pull the bar down, sway bar, and get that lined up. Give this a tap. Take the sway bar bolts, get those started. Snug those down. Now put the nuts on the bolts. There and in the front. And we're not going to tighten those down yet. We'll tighten those and torque those later. Raise this up. And I'm just going to put a pull jack underneath. Take the bolts, get those started. Just make sure this is lined up good. Snug these up. Torque these bolts to 37 foot-pounds. Now we're going to raise up on the control arm. Just be careful. You want to get this control arm as close to ride height as possible. It would be ideal if you could put the vehicle on the ground and then torque these bolts, but that's not the easiest thing, so do the best you can. Just get it up safely, a little bit more. That's good right there. And we'll tighten those down and torque them. Snug this one down as well. Now torque these nuts and bolts to 129 foot-pounds. Now you can lower the control arm. I'm going to put the sway bar link back in. I'm just going to use the pry bar. Just pry up on sway bar. Put the centerpiece in. Get that lined up. And put the screw through. And the bushing and the nut on top. And we'll tighten this down. Snug that down. Now we're going to torque the link to 17 foot-pounds. That's good. And take the axle, take the bungee cord off. Now take the knuckle, get this lined up. We're going to put in the ball joint first, or combination of the ball joint and the axle. Just kind of rock it back and forth a little bit. Take the nut started on the lower ball joint. And get the upper ball joint lined up. And using a pry bar, pry this down, get the nut started. All right, that's good. Now take the tie rod in, get that lined up in the knuckle. Take the castle nut, get that started. Now we'll tighten up the ball joint. It's just spinning, so we're just going to use a pull jack, raise up on this. Just raise it up, just put a little bit of pressure on it. It doesn't take much. That's snug. Now you want to torque this to 37 foot-pounds and then an additional 125 degrees. That's good. If you have a cotter pin and a hole, you want to make sure the castle nut lines up with the cotter pin. If it doesn't line up, tighten it an additional turn until it does line up. Never loosen it to line up the cotter pin. Lower the pull jack. We're going to torque this nut to 26 foot-pounds. And then an additional 85 degrees. There you go. See where the cotter pin hole lines up on the castle nut. If it's not lined up, you want to tighten it a little bit more. Just so it lines up, never loosen it. That's good. Put the cotter pin through. Just use some side cutters. We'll just pull this down, fold that. You can trim the excess and trim the other excess. That's good there. Now we're going to use a pry bar, pry upper control arm down. See, 18mm ratchet wrench. Tighten this nut. Snug that down. It's hard to get a torque wrench in there because there's not a lot of room. If you can, you want to torque that to 37 foot-pounds, and then you want to go an additional 90 degrees. Do the best you can. That's good. Take the wiring harness, we're going to re-secure it. Take this clip, that's going to go into the bracket. Just push that in, clip that in place. And the retainer is going to go into this bracket. That's good. Take the connector, line that up, push that in, push down on the lock, and the retainer is going to line up in the two holes right there. Just push that down in place. That's good. And put the nut on. The spindle nut, tighten that down. Snug that down. We're going to torque the axle nut to 177 foot-pounds. Just going to spray a little anti-seize on the hub surface. Just to slow down corrosion. Slide the rotor in place. Make sure you have the threaded hole lined up with one of those holes. And put the screw in. Snug that down. And take the caliper off the hanger. Slide it over the rotor. Make sure the pads are spread apart. Get the bolts started. Tighten these down. Torque these to 170 foot-pounds. Now put the wheel on. Get the lug nut started. And snug these down. Now we're going to torque these lug nuts in a cross pattern to 140 foot-pounds. Go around again, double check. After finishing this installation, it's important to have an alignment done on your vehicle.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.